Mr. President, we all have a responsibility to understand the history of our country. We have a responsibility to learn from that history, and we learn from that history so we don't repeat the failures of the past. So I'm here to remind my colleagues of some of that history, but also able to fill in some details that are just recently made public as a result of some of our investigative work and the cooperation we've had from the intelligence community and from the FBI. Today, I visit with my colleagues to discuss two dates of significance importance. January 6, 2021 and January 6, 2017. And most of my remarks are about that date in 2017. Regarding the 2021 date, it was a dark day in American history. The violence against our Capitol and law enforcement was, as we all know, a great national disgrace. First Amendment activity turned into something else. The latter date, January 6, 2017, is a date many in this country may not remember or care to remember, but I think it's important that we remember it. It's a day that signifies a much larger systemic attack on our republic. On that date, as the Obama administration planned its exit from its presidency of 8 years, it put into motion its final traps against the incoming first Trump administration. To fully understand January 2017, we must revisit March and July 2016. But one could argue that it all started June 16th, 2015, when Trump declared his candidacy. Around March or July of 2016, the FBI received particular intelligence information. Notably, July 2016 is the very same month that FBI Director Comey opened the discredited Crossfire hurricane investigation. That intelligence information consisted of reports that the Clinton campaign, with Hillary Clinton's approval, created a plan to falsely tie Trump to Russia. That information was made public this year when I released the Durham Annex and the Clinton Annex. The Clinton Annex showed the FBI had evidence necessary to do a complete investigation into Hillary Clinton, and the FBI failed to look at it, at that very evidence, and perhaps they intentionally decided not to follow up. So the FBI swept the evidence against Clinton under the rug as they planned to advance the Crossfire hurricane against Trump. Regarding the intelligence about the Clinton campaign's plan to falsely tie Trump to Russia, The Durham Annex notes that, quote, FBI was fully alerted to the possibility that at least some of the information it received about the Trump campaign might have its origin either with the Clinton campaign or its supporters, or alternately was the product of Russian disinformation, end of quote. The Durham Annex concludes in part that, quote, despite this awareness, the FBI appears to have dismissed the intelligence information as not credible without any investigative steps actually having been taken to either corroborate or disprove the allegations. In other words, the FBI didn't do what the FBI should do, and that is follow up on the facts. So just as the Clinton Annex, where Comey's FBI didn't investigate evidence that might have been bad for Clinton, the Durham Annex shows Comey, FBI, didn't investigate intelligence that the Clinton team wanted to falsely tie to Russia to destroy his candidacy in favor of her candidacy. I refer to the Durham and the Clinton annexes because they were just recently declassified, so this information is available. So folks, that is what I just described as a cover-up. So the question, what was the main purpose of the cover-up? The answer, weaponize the federal government to destroy Trump's candidacy and presidency to favor Clinton.
Wow.
You see, Clinton, to the people in this town, was not a threat to the status quo, and they saw Trump as that threat. In August 2016, President Obama and Vice President Biden met with 3 high-level people, or probably more than 3, but the 3 that I name are CIA Director Brennan, Director of National Intelligence Clapper, and FBI Director Comey. They discussed the intelligence relating to the Clinton plan. They were aware of the possibility that the Clinton campaign had dirty tricks up their sleeve designed to impact the election. Question, let me ask. So did that stop the Obama administration's effort against Trump? Well, we know now that it did not. Then on December the 9th, 2016, so this is after Trump had been elected, President Obama's national security team gathered. That meeting included Director of National Intelligence Clapper, CIA Director Brennan, FBI Deputy Director McCabe, National Security Advisor Susan Rice, Secretary of State Kerry, Attorney General Lynch, and others. After that meeting, Clapper's office transmitted an email to the intelligence community leaders titled, quote, President of the United States tasking on Russia election meddling, end of quote. Clapper asked his personnel to create an, quote, assessment per the president's request, end of quote. The new assessment was an intelligence community assessment. Per the good investigative work of the House Intelligence Committee's report, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the President, directed by senior intelligence community heads, and created by just 5 analysts using one principal director. Production of the intelligence community assessment was subject to unusual directive from the President and senior political appointees, and particularly the director of the CIA, end of quote from that House Intelligence Committee report. Again, a question. Why go through all this effort to create a new product? Well, according to the good work of Tulsi Gabbard in the House Intelligence Committee, CIA officials didn't have credible and verified information showing Putin wanted to get Trump elected. And the intelligence at the time showed that Putin withheld information that would have been damaging to Clinton and therefore would have helped Trump. Obviously, these fixers would not do anything to hurt Clinton. So, the Obama administration needed their fixers. On December 22, 2016, National Security Agency Director emailed Brennan, Clapper, and Comey. That email noted that the National Security Agency didn't have enough time to review the intelligence for purposes of the new intelligence community assessment Obama ordered. So they wanted to get it done very, very quickly. So this is how Clapper responded to the National Security Agency. Quote, we may have to compromise our normal modalities, end of quote, and that, quote, more time is not negotiable. And this is one project, continuing to quote, this is one project that has to be team sport. In other words, we need this very quickly. Don't go through the normal process. You see here, the deep state wanted a new intelligence product created from the top down, not from the bottom up, as is usually done, and they wanted it done so badly that they were willing to cut corners, even if it put the country into chaos. What was this new product? It was the December 30th, 2016 Intelligence Community Assessment tying Trump to Putin. It stated in part, quote, we assess Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances when possible by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to him meeting Trump, end of quote, end of quote. In their partisan Reich, and it was a Reich, that intelligence product was published on the date that I previously referred to, that is a date ought to be remembered, January 6, 2017. That same day, then, Director of the FBI, Comey, briefed President-elect Trump on the discredited Clinton campaign funded that we call that famous Steele dossier. The new intelligence assessment said Putin favored Trump over Hillary Clinton, even though earlier intelligence had shown Russia simply wanted to cause political chaos in the United States, and it didn't matter whether that president was a Clinton or a Trump. The new intelligence assessment is exactly what the Durham Annex and the Clinton campaign wanted to accomplish. The Durham Annex also noted existing intelligence products, said the Clinton campaign believed elements of the Obama administration would help them achieve their political ends against Trump. Based on the available evidence, there is no doubt the new intelligence assessment was a political hit job that had been ordered by President Obama. And let me remind folks that Senator Johnson and I got Annex A to the new intelligence assessment declassified way back in 2020. Annex A was a summary of discredited Steele dossier. Comey and Brennan worked hard to make sure it was included, even though it was unverified and didn't meet the standard for inclusion. Now, how convenient do you see that is for them? Now, this next part is very important. In 2020, Senator Johnson and I publicly released additional information that we'd been able to get declassified. That declassified information showed that the Russians knew of the Steele dossier at least as early as July 2016 and before the FBI began Crossfire Hurricane. The declassified information also stated that the FBI received information that an individual, quote, central in connecting Trump to Russia, end of quote, was very likely a Russian intelligence officer. The declassified information also showed that the FBI received an intelligence report on January 12th, 2017, warning of false information in the dossier, and that the material was, quote, part of Russian disinformation campaign to denigrate U.S. foreign relations, end of quote. On the very same day, January 12, 2017, the FISA warrant on Carter Page, which used the discredited dossier, was renewed for the first time. The Steele dossier served as a gift to the Russians, a vehicle to pack false information in the hopes the Obama administration and Comey would fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. Or Obama and his minions saw the obvious and proceeded anyway, believing nobody would ever get all this information declassified for public to see. In any event, with all these red lights flashing stop, the Obama administration went full speed ahead. And even with Trump as president, Comey gleefully ran every stop sign. The Comey FBI still used the discredited Steele dossier to get a FISA warrant and multiple renewals on Carter Page. And the political hit job continued with the Mueller special counsel investigation. Now, with the public having seen all this declassified information kept in the dark, for all of 10 years, there's no doubt that Mueller investigation or review was totally unnecessary. Then, the Biden administration entered the office to consider the partisan political dirty work. For example, Senator Johnson and I released records relating to Arctic frost. That's the FBI case that anti-Trump special agent Thibault created with the help of partisan FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors. Based on emails that I've obtained from whistleblowers, we know Thibault opened and even approved the case in violation of the FBI rules. According to Deputy Attorney General Blanche, as defense counsel for Trump, Jack Smith and his team withheld these emails from the Trump defense team. Arctic frost conveniently became one of Jack Smith's cases against Trump, and it was politically infected from the very start. Based on more emails whistleblowers have given me, we also know that Thibault, Supervisory Agent, Special Agent Blair Tolman, Special Agent Walter Giardina, and partisan DOJ prosecutors focused their efforts and resources on Peter Navarro. When Department of Justice prosecutors under Merrick Garland authority decided to prosecute Navarro, Thibault said, quote unquote, "Wow, great," end of quote. You see how determined these people were to do anything underhanded to get Trump. From the time then candidate Trump came down the escalator in 2015 to this very day, it's been a decade of political weaponization of law enforcement and intelligence community activities. The examples I've given today are that, examples. I could speak for days on end about my investigative work, what it's uncovered over the years, and the fact that political bias has so deeply infected this country's law enforcement and intelligence community agencies. What that's all added up to, it ought to shake everyone in this country to their very core. If the government, including the Department of Justice so-called Public Integrity Unit and an elite FBI Public Corruption Squad, can do that to the President of the United States, just imagine what the government can do to you, the very citizens of this country, if it decides to give you its full and undivided attention. January 6, 2021 was a single day, a day that we shouldn't forget. January 6, 2017 was a day that was meant to topple a presidency. And it should certainly outweigh January 6, where a ragtag mob stormed the Capitol with zero chances of succeeding. To be intellectually honest and fair, we can't ignore the decade of weaponization by taxpayer-funded law enforcement and intelligence community agencies against Republicans, not just the president. What's so disgusting about Obama and Biden administration's partisan conduct that I've just told you about is that its personnel didn't care about the long-lasting damage to this great nation, including eroding trust in American institutions. And the partisan media went right along,
Yep.
no questions asked.
Yep.
And those journalists in this town and around the country are supposed to be policing the political system to make sure that everything is above board. And they didn't do it in this case, and they aren't doing it today either. In this case, no questions were asked. This behavior is an existential threat to our republic because it creates a systemic, insidious infection that grows in the dark, behind classified walls and bureaucratic red tape, far away from the eyes of the American public and the Congress. And all this behavior was paid for by the taxpayers of this country. I'm thankful to Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel,
The people should get a
Director
refund.
Gabbard, and Director Ratcliffe for their aggressive transparency
American people
efforts.
deserve a refund.
Making all these classified documents public may prevent further dangerous conspiracies as these are from reoccurring again. For my part, and for we the people, my investigative work will continue to shine light on those very dark corners of government. Because, as I said when I opened my remarks, you have to know about the history of the country to appreciate what we enjoy today. And if you don't learn from the mistakes of the past, they're going to be repeated.
Facts.
So I have come to the Senate floor to tell my people what has been unveiled today that was previously classified, and going through the entire story so this country doesn't make the mistake again of letting all the powerful forces of the American government, the FBI, the intelligence community, people that operate behind closed doors, that political strength and weaponization never continues again.